Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Gemma, and joining me this week, I have my two excellent friends. I have Kirk. Welcome back, Kirk.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, welcome back. We've had a week to digest the Switch 2 news, and we are going to discuss more of that with Trev as well. Welcome back, Trev.
Hi, Gemma. Hi, Kirk. Hi, listeners.
Yes. Last week was a huge show, a very long show. Did we recover okay after that lengthy discussion?
Sure.
Well, let's
Yeah.
see how long this week's is.
Yes, well, we saved some of the more controversial stuff for this week, i.e. price. So we're going to talk about the price, the pre-order status, as well as some games we're playing, which we haven't had the chance to do for a few weeks. That'll be nice. But let's start off with that price thing because it's kind of been everywhere this week. And we know Nintendo didn't actually announce a price in the Direct. Maybe a smart move, because then it meant we could talk about the games and the system. But now, of course, we do have a price. And let's start with the console, because I guess you can break it down into a few different categories. Console games, a few games in particular, I think we want to talk about, plus the expansion stuff. So the console itself, it's more than we predicted, right? I think we thought it would be around $399 US, according to Justin's predictions of 2025. Did we all feel comfortable with that number previously? And were we surprised by $449? And do we think that's reasonable? Who has an opinion on that?
Well,
I have an opinion, but I'll let you guys go first. And it's
Trevor and I have discussed this a little bit already via Blue Sky. I think.
Right. Yes.
Reacting to other people's posts. I think $449 was the high end of what I was expecting. $399 was the low end. I unless I'm mistaken, I wasn't giving that a very big window. So I wasn't surprised when I saw that after. I think they released it. That was in the press release, maybe right after it ended. So they didn't even delay really telling us what the price was going to be, or what but they just didn't include it in the Direct itself.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they had to tell us pretty much straight away. Otherwise, how would we know? And pre-orders were obviously meant to open straight away. They did for some areas, not all. We'll get to that later. Trev, how did you feel about the console price? Do you think $449 is fair, or was it more than you were hoping?
I'm of a couple minds. As far as the tech that they have in the console, in the hybrid, however we're classifying it, I think it's fair. But it is more than I was expecting, and obviously more than I like, because I'm not as into the tech stuff. I know some people really gobble that up, like Justin was really excited about some of the features that get it more in line with its contemporaries, what Sony and Microsoft are doing. But I do think the price is an issue, and I'll mention this. I was listening to a podcast episode from Kent and Krista, who worked for Nintendo for a long time. I don't always catch them, but obviously they have informed insights and opinions because they were part of the company. And they actually called it, and this might be paraphrased because I didn't, copy it word for word, but they called it a crisis moment for Nintendo, even before the whole tariff thing was announced, because it shifted the focus away from the games to the pricing. And it's not even just the high cost, but I think there's a lot of confusing aspects with it since the Switch 2 has been unveiled. And granted, we're in confusing times, and it's not like a Wii U type confusion because we know what the hardware is, but there's a lot of little things that are adding up to some confusion. And just one point, and we have it jotted here in the notes, why is the Japanese one so much cheaper than the American? And, for those who are thinking, oh, maybe I'll just import it and save $100, why are they doing a region lock or something approximate to that? It might seem like a small thing, and maybe it is ultimately, but it's one of many things that are not doing Nintendo any favors. The cost and the confusion that stems from the costs.
Yeah. Yep. All very good points, honestly. I think that's the main thing I want to highlight, that what you just said, is that it's causing confusion, and and directing people away from what's really important, which is the games. And that's what we all want to get excited about. And what well, we are excited about. I'm very excited about Mario Kart World still, and Donkey Kong Bonanzas, and Metroid Prime, and etc. But the price has become the central topic of conversation. It's yeah, it is. So the Switch 2 in Japan is 49,000 yen thereabouts, which I mean, dollars and currency fluctuates, but converting it is 559 Australian and 338 US. And 338 US is a lot less than 449 US.
Mm.
And 559 is a lot less than Australian price, which is 699. And so from my perspective, I wasn't expecting it to be. I probably thought it'd be around 599, maybe 559. Sorry, 599 or 659. I didn't really think it'd hit 700 in Australia. It's a lot. It's a lot. I've been thinking a lot about it this week. And you sort of hit the nail on the head again with what you said about the tech. The tech is pretty high end. It's got the fan, it's got the chat features. Obviously it's very powerful graphically, etc. So it kind of makes sense that it costs at what it does. Don't know why the conversion's off. I mean, I still pre-ordered it. I'm still going to get it. I thought the Switch was expensive when it first was announced. For me, it was 469 in Australia, which seemed like a lot to me at the time. It is
Mm.
8 years later now, right? And inflation is a thing. We are in a different kind of environment with tariffs and all sorts, which does not help anyone at all. And I was thinking, my phone, I spent way more than that on my phone, which probably lasts 2 or 3 years. And this system will hopefully last 5 to 10 years, like my Switch has. But yeah, it's not. I think the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about is this a factor? Because a lot of people have a PlayStation or a Xbox, and then they have a Switch, right? Just like they did for the Wii. I think in the Wii generation, kind of Nintendo became that extra console that a lot of people had. Like there are fans like us who maybe just have the Nintendo, and that's fine. But is this price going to push out those people who would have both systems and leave Nintendo only with those purists, I suppose, if you want to call it that? Do you think that's a thing or not really?
I think that's a very good point. I do believe that there are a lot of people who are happy to pay more and wouldn't question the pricing on an Xbox or a PS5, but they see Nintendo as the lesser system and
Mm,
will get one specifically to play a Zelda game or something, a cheaper version down the road.
mhm,
Um, and would be less likely to do that. But I also think that with this pricing, that Nintendo is now saying we're more ready to compete directly to position the Nintendo to be the number one console as
mhm.
opposed to the fallback.
Yeah.
So if they think this system's good enough for that, the screen is large enough, it's powerful enough. We know it's still not as powerful as like a PS5, but it's closer.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of games that you couldn't play on the Switch, you will now be able to play on the Switch too. So people who make that argument that it's not a powerful system, that argument's a lot weaker now than it
Mhm.
was, with the Switch. Of course, who knows when the PS6 is going to come out and
Yeah.
completely take it over again.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it. Mhm.
but yeah, so I agree that it's less likely to be a backup console or a second console until the inevitable Switch 2 Lite is released in 2 or 3 years, and it'll be
Yeah.
more the size of a normal Switch, and may have smaller internal storage or something like that. They'll knock the 150 off the price, and then that will become the backup system for people who didn't hop on the Switch 2 yet.
Mm. Yeah. Yep. That's likely to happen for sure. Yeah, and then does it mean if we continue that train of thought that the Switch 2 is competing more so with the current gen consoles, and then Sony releases a PlayStation 6, and I don't know what the time period between PlayStations is, but it's not 7 or 8 years, right? It's not what Nintendo has done with the Switch. Does that mean we could expect a Switch 3 a lot sooner because they'll need to keep up with that then? You know, we're not on par exactly, but we're much closer to the PS5 now. Sony releases a PlayStation 6, Switch 2 is much further behind. Then we have to release a Switch 3 in like 3 to 5 years' time as opposed to, 5 to 7 or 8 or whatever it is.
I'll go first
Doctor,
on this
my
one
head.
too. I hope that's not the case, and I'll be fast on this, because the reason why I'm not upset about the 449 price is because I'm looking at the Switch and the value I got for that. If you
Mm-hmm.
ask me, spending $449 on a game console that I'm going to be playing for 5 years, 6 years, that's nothing. That's an incredible value.
Mm.
Not considering, okay, the price is jacked up versus, the release in Japan. I think Jeff or Bowser, I'm sorry, is it Jeff? Did I get that right?
Oh, Doug Bowser?
Doug Bowser. Thank you. You know what? I was
Mhm.
just listening to a song about Jeff Bezos, so that's fine. I
Nice.
apologize for that. But he said that the tariffs weren't factored into the initial price, or all
Mhm.
that, and I don't for a second believe that that's true. They
Mm.
have an entire group of people. There's probably an entire team who look at the market and look at the pricing and look at the competition and decide, what are we going to charge for this system now that 4 years from now isn't causing us to lose money. They're always planning ahead for these things and all the things that could go wrong, so I don't believe him for a second.
Mm.
But like I said, the price they dropped at, if I'm looking at this console for 5 years, even if I end up updating to another model down the road and pass this on to someone else, to me, that's still a value that doesn't upset me. And that's why the 449 price isn't bothering me.
Yeah. No, that I agree. I completely agree. I mean, yeah, I'm still happy to pay my 700, 700 sounds like a lot in Australian dollars. $700, which is actually cheaper if you convert it to US dollars. It's 420 USD. It's a lot, but it's worth it because it is for me a long-term system. And I had the exact same thought. I looked at my Switch. I'm like, at the time it was 469 Australian. It seemed like a lot, but I've got a lot out of it, like a lot, way, way more than I would have ever expected anyway. And it's held its value, I suppose you could say, and it's lasted 7, 8 years. So this one, I expect to do the same thing. Trove, anything else to say on consoles, or did you say that was confusing? What I said? Did you not understand what I was
Uh,
talking about?
oh no, just the idea of thinking ahead to Switch 3 before we
Oh,
even have a Switch 2 in our hand is like almost overwhelming.
yeah,
We
Um,
haven't even pre-ordered it yet.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
You guys made a lot of good points, and I agree with a lot of what you said. Obviously, it's interesting you mentioned inflation, though, Gemma. I've
Hmm.
seen, we've talked about that a lot on the show, right? How we've been fortunate that gaming's kind of been spared
Mm,
that,
hmm.
and I see some people bringing it up more so because of the Switch 2 expenses. But, you know, it's one thing to look at a chart and be like, wow, the NES and the SNES were more back in, you know, 40 years ago than the
Mm.
Switch is now. But it's true. But how beneficial is that messaging? Is that going to mean a
Mm.
lot to people who maybe weren't even alive when those consoles were out? Especially since a lot of salaries are not keeping pace with that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a whole thing we could get into, right? But
Hmm.
to Kirk's point about power, I think it's interesting. Not that I've done a deep dive, but doing a cursory look on social media, on websites, on message boards, it seems sort of like there's an even divide of people who are really excited and those who are a little more indifferent.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of highlights the fact that Nintendo traditionally hasn't been focused on power.
Mm.
Now obviously I'm glad the Switch 2 is more powerful. I don't want another transitioning from GameCube to Wii where I'm like, what the heck? It's the GameCube with motion controls, but is the cost justified for Nintendo's audience beyond the enthusiasts like us, right?
Mm.
So, you have some people that are comparing Switch 2 to the latest offerings from Sony and Microsoft, and they're going to be like, yeah, that's awesome. But then there's others who are comparing the Switch 2 to the original Switch, which was a lot cheaper. And they're like, wow, is it worth it for 120 frames per second? Or, this camera feature that, I mean, let's be honest, we're excited about it. So we can play together. But how the average consumer, are they going to be
Uh,
using that?
I'm not excited about
So,
it.
No,
I'm
my,
never
my
turning
point
it
stands.
on.
Most of us are excited
Yeah.
about it. So I just wonder, for Nintendo's perspective, would it be better to take a slight hit on the hardware, because a lot of people, a lot of companies, they take a loss on hardware and make up for it in software.
Mm, mhm.
Nintendo hasn't traditionally done that, but if anyone has the software to make up for it, it's Nintendo. Switch had 100 games that sold a million plus, and some of them in the tens of millions. So
Mm.
I just, I have questions about some of their thought process on, it's like Kirk said, are they trying to be the number one console, not just in sales, but in tech? I mean, they're not there yet, but are they trying to get on more level ground? And is that what's going to maintain their audience?
Mm. Yeah. That's a really good question, honestly. I don't know the answer though.
Yeah, and I think part of that is like they're going to keep a certain audience, and this is where I certainly am going to be part of that, just because of the lineup of games that they have, because of the franchises they have that the other systems
Mm.
don't.
Yeah.
Um, but that's us. I think there are also a lot of people who probably did buy the Switch for themselves, for their families, because it was the cheaper option out there. Um, as you're looking at them, there's enough good games. We've heard of these games. Hey, everyone loves Mario, whatever you want to say.
We're
And
going to edit that out.
again, I was listening to a song about Jeff Bezos, and
Sure.
but so yeah, they're picking up that system because I mean it is a good system. It's Nintendo, everyone knows it, but also it is considerably cheaper. And now it's just cheaper, not considerably cheaper. So I
Mm.
don't know if people will now say maybe it's time we try one of these other systems.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It is still cheaper. Like, it's cheaper than the PS5. It's cheaper than even, I think, the Steam Deck. I don't know what it's like in the US. It's a similar price here for the base model. I think, oh no, a little bit more expensive for the base model. And then there are two other models that are a lot more expensive than the Switch too. But um, yeah, even that, because a lot of people compare it to the Steam Deck now. Like, oh, I'm just going to go get a Steam Deck then and play Nintendo games on there. I'm like, well,
Eh,
you're not going to be playing Switch 2 games on the Steam Deck. So
yeah, that's those people are they're being simple
yeah.
in their argument.
Yeah.
The thing
Yes.
too, when you look at like the Steam Deck, and we're going to be transitioning to this point, probably in a couple minutes, but you get a Steam Deck, and there's a lot of dirt cheap games, or even
Mm,
free games. When you got Nintendo now, and I think that's maybe what's concerning people more than the initial
mm,
investment of the system. When you have games that are $80, and maybe not even games that are fully on the cart. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of confusion there. We thought
mhm.
maybe Tears of the Kingdom was a one off, but now it's like, what? We have, you know, how many Nintendo games am I going to be able to afford? Because it's not like the games go on sale
Yeah, that's
of
true.
any real discount.
But
Mhm.
also keep in mind that the entire, well, not the entire, a great majority of the Switch library is also available on the Switch too. So people are getting it new versus like a Steam Deck. You still have a giant catalog of inexpensive games that you would be able to put on it. And I also think a lot of third party developers are not going to be hitting, obviously, that $80 mark. Um,
Mhm. That's true.
so I think there'll still be a considerable number of options that come in at more familiar and comfortable prices.
Yeah, and which is a perfect segue to gaming. But I did want to start with, into your point, Kirk. Third parties like uh, Bravely Default and Street Fighter 6 are not the same price point as Mario Kart or Donkey Kong, for example.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Bravely Default also is a remake of an old game, so
true,
if they came
true.
in at 80,
Yes, well, even Street Fighter
but
6 is not a new a new
yeah,
game, but
and that
it's
is Square
newer.
Enix too. So if anyone's going to charge a ridiculous amount of money for a game, it's going to be Square Enix.
Yeah, this is true.
$80 plus 160 worth of subscriptions.
And I think both of those are not game on the cart. I think it's one of those pass keys that give
Yeah.
you
Okay.
the means to download it, which no doubt is a savings for them, but not really consumer friendly.
And you mentioned the download thing and the confusion around that. I am very confused about that, to be honest. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Are physical games more now than digital, which is like the reverse of what we've seen before? Is that what they're saying? So, like, for example, Mario Kart. We need to talk about Mario Kart World because that is the expensive one that's the $80 one, right? In the US, $80.
Hmm.
They're saying, yeah. It's 110 here, which is really expensive for a game. Most Nintendo games here are like 70. I think Breath of the Wild was 80, or maybe it was 90, but it was less than 100, and now we're talking 110.
You
Anyway,
got to use one of those vouchers. Oh wait,
did
Nintendo's
they,
not doing those anymore.
did I do that? Those vouchers were great. Yeah, but I don't know what I'm getting. Like, I've got the bundle. I think the bundle is good. I will say that. I like the bundle with Mario Kart World because that brings the game price in Australia down to 70, from 110 to 70, which is,
Yeah.
I'm fine with $70 Mario Kart, right? That's what I would have paid for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right? So that's fine with me. I'm really happy with my bundle. Not everyone is going to get the bundle, and we don't know how long the bundle will last. I don't even know if it's in the US, that deal.
It
Because
it is.
it
Yeah.
is,
Or
okay.
will be. It will
It
be,
will
yes.
be, yeah. So, I mean, I think that was a somewhat smart move because it will probably help encourage people to buy the Mario Kart World bundle, just because it's cheaper. And you'd be like, well, I want to get Mario Kart World. I want to get the Switch too. Why would I pay $110 or whatever the US $80 is? I'm going to get the bundle, right? Because you want to get a game day one. You don't. I know we've got this huge library of Switch games, but I want a game to walk away with to play on the day it's released. And Donkey Kong's not out yet. I'm not going to get Street Fighter. I mean, I like it, but I want Mario. That's why I'm getting a Switch. So I think that's a good idea. But back to my original point, sorry. I'm confused about the download codes and the physical thing, and I don't know how that works, and I don't know why that's even a question. Why can't they just say physical games are going to retail for this? And that's the other thing Doug Bowser said, the prices will fluctuate. I don't like that either. I think they should have a standard price, and maybe there's a top tier. Like, maybe Mario Kart World is this top tier that Tears of the Kingdom was, I guess you could say, the top tier of the last generation, because it was a little bit more expensive. But most games will retail for this price. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, sorry, Kirk.
Well, I was wondering if some of the price hike has to do with the size of, or the amount of memory in the card that they're shipping with it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's taking up more space, they need to get a more expensive card cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
We had a word for this, and I keep forgetting what it was. What
Cart,
to
I
do?
think.
Yeah,
Card.
okay. But if that's the case, then why are they still charging us 80 for the digital download? If it's the physical, if it's because of the
Mm,
tariffs, if it's because of the packaging, if it's because of the shelf space, if it's because of the card, then does the digital download cost the same?
mm-hmm.
I think if they're going to do that, there are some games I would pay extra just to get the physical product, to put it on my shelf, to be part of my collection. I'm happy to spend an additional $20 for that. I paid more for that because of commemorative editions and such.
Mm,
But then give us the digital download at the same price, or at least not as jacked up as standard games.
mm, yeah. What do you think, Trev?
All right. Well, first things first, as long as we're talking Mario Kart, I want to give a shout out, Gemma. You were correct about predicting an open world Mario Kart. The
Yeah.
reason I didn't remember it is because I was not on that particular
Right.
particular
No.
episode, but I shared it with you guys. But if any listeners are curious, I think it was episode 20. Thank goodness it had a Mario Kart in the thumbnail. I didn't have to actually find it very long.
I was wondering, yeah, you listened to all 100.
Yeah. I was pretty impressed.
Very
Yeah, I'm
dedicated.
like, well, I'll do this because I think you were discussing some of the DLC, and I
Yes.
happened to hit it on the first one.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, it was DLC
So,
Wave Boost Pack, whatever it's called,
and
Wave 5. We were talking about, and I was saying, what's next for Mario Kart? And I'm like, they need to do an open world Mario Kart.
so kudos to you.
Yeah, that was like 2
Um,
years ago.
yeah, I'll say I hate the confusion, but the Mario Kart Direct can't come soon enough,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping that when it does, there'll be a little more comment diversity too. Like we talked about how, or maybe we didn't talk about it on the podcast, but we talked about it amongst ourselves that like 75-80% of the comments during the Treehouse Live footage was drop the price, drop the price. I'm hoping Mario Kart hits it out of the park so much that the comments are, wow, this looks fun. This looks amazing. This big world, whatever. But I look at that price, $80. And, Mario Kart 8, its predecessor, sold over 76 million copies
Mm.
without any real sizable price drop. Could Nintendo have taken some of that profit and cut the consumer a break and be like, hey, this will be $60 or even $70, like Tears of the Kingdom? That's
Mhm.
still easier to swallow than 80.
Yeah.
I hate it's the combination of the cost and the confusion, and it's making, I feel, gamers fearful. It's like, what do I do? Like, do I want to pick this up? But by the same token, if I don't, Nintendo said it's a limited time pack in. What
Mm.
happens if I wait till Black Friday and then there's no more pack in? Am I going to be spending more? I hate to be, I don't know what Kirk called it on Blue Sky, negative Nelly or whatever, but
Nancy, negative Nancy.
negative Nancy. But I feel like these are the things people are thinking about.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge that, even if we have differing opinions, or even if we don't have a fully formed opinion, because we don't know.
Mhm. It's tricky. I think for me, I guess 2 things. One, Mario Kart, I love Mario Kart, so I'm probably gonna buy it no matter how much it costs. Not necessarily happily spend a lot of money, and like I said, the bundle does help, so I'm fine with that. But, the world, from what I've seen in the Treehouse Live stuff, it does look a lot bigger than previous Mario Karts. Obviously, the graphics look great, there's more players, more characters, etcetera, etcetera, but even just that open world aspect does look impressive, but it's still confusing, like you said. Excuse me. And the direct will hopefully answer some of those questions. I think, yeah, this, I guess the second thing is going back to what you said, well, what I said about inflation, then you kind of led onto a little bit as well. Everything costs a lot now, right? Cost of living is just through the roof. Rent has gone up. My eggs cost a lot now. Like everything's expensive. So not that that's an excuse, but what that means is people now have to be selective about what they spend their money on because they just don't have as much of it. Like you said, wages have not gone up as much, so they don't have as much disposable income anymore. And it's like, well, Nintendo was the nice little. I could spend $60 on a Mario Kart game before because that wasn't too much to bear, but now it is, and people are feeling the stress. And Nintendo was like a little escape thing, and now it's like a burden thing. Maybe, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like when I see all the drop the price claims, my first thought is always, okay, well, who's posting this? Who is it? The person is it the person who's complaining that developers are working 60, 70 hour weeks and they're
Mm,
barely getting paid? Because if Nintendo's taking this money and paying the people who are developing the game fairly,
mhm.
then okay. Now I don't know if that's what they're doing. They could just be stockpiling it so they can, make their third Mario movie. I'm
Uh,
sticking with Mario. I'm sticking with it. You guys can't
It
knock
sounds
me off that.
it sounds like a Boston, accent to me. Wouldn't
Yeah,
they say
boy,
like
and I
a
don't nowhere near that either. Is it are people complaining because like I see all these posts on social media sometimes where someone's like, "Hey, I just bought my 150th game," and they show a picture of the box they bought and all these in the background. Like, are you upset because you can't buy 150 now?
Mhm.
Do you have a backlog of 15 games that you purchased and didn't even start? Because
Yeah.
so if that's the person who's complaining, I don't have a lot of sympathy. On the other hand,
Mhm.
that is expensive. $80 is a lot for a game. And if you're a kid, arguing with your parents to pick up this game for you and it's out of their price range, if it's out of your price range and you normally only buy 2, 3 games a year, you're really looking forward to this. And now you're having to make sacrifices elsewhere. I totally get that. And I
Mm.
understand the argument. And I really wish that, the prices were lower. But again, I always go back to the same thing. Am I getting my value out of this game? $80 for a video game that you're going to play 300, 400 hours. Compare that to the price you're paying for a movie where you get in 2 hours. Price
Yeah.
you're paying for a live football game that lasts 3 hours and it's done. I mean, you get so much out of these games that I don't
Mm.
mind that the price to them seems so much more than other forms of entertainment. The only thing I think you get a better value out of is a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Video games and books, the two best values in entertainment.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with that. And I
with a book, though, you can only reread it after it's been a while and you've forgotten some of
you
it,
can
right?
reread it straight away if you want to.
But if you're a slower reader like me, despite my speed reading class I took when I was a junior in high school, it takes a long time to finish a book.
I did something
Mhm.
similar in high school too, Kirk. Speed reading.
I don't. I swear I was good at it, but that all went
You got
away.
that visual novel out pretty quick.
Yeah,
So
it's about chunking the phrases. I still try to do it, but I feel like I don't get as much out of, especially like a fictional book. It's just more enjoyable if you read every word. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And I like the pacing. I like being slow with it, and
Yeah, you're right.
picking up on the
Books,
phrasing.
a decent book will last many, many hours, which is very true. And
all
Mario
right,
Kart,
I'll confess. I had a transcript of every Pure Nintendo podcast, and I sped read through the first 19 before I hit on the good one.
All right.
there
Well,
we go. We knew it.
Mrs. Straits would be proud of you.
Was that your teacher?
Yeah, yeah. She was my speed reading teacher.
Classic.
Uh,
Yeah, I think Mario Kart World for me is the sort of game I will play. Like it's in my top 3 played games on the Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I know I'm going to play this a lot, so I'm not as upset about the price, but it is. I don't want that to be the precedent. And again, I've got the bundle, so I'm not paying 80. I'm not paying 110 Australian. Um, if they didn't have the bundle, I would probably feel a lot worse about it.
Yeah.
I would still want to buy it. I have seen it a little bit cheaper because the pre-orders are obviously open here, and there are a few competing places. I think the cheapest I've seen Mario Kart was maybe 104 somewhere. So there's already a few discounts around, which is good. But we know first party games don't go down a lot generally. But maybe let's switch gears to this welcome tour business if we're done with Mario Kart World, because I think this is another contentious point. This is the game that they showed during the direct. That's like a little what is it? A collection of mini games, I guess, that use the mouse, for example. It's got obviously kind of details about the system. It's like a little tour, hence the name Welcome Tour. I love the idea of it. I love the concept. I think it's a really fun way to introduce people to a new system, interact with it. The games will obviously help you learn how things work in terms of the mouse controls. Great idea, but it's not free. It's not expensive. We know it's $10. I believe that's US dollars. I don't think I've seen an Australian price. I imagine it'd be 15 or 20 here. Um, there's a bit of controversy about this too. Should it have been a pack-in? What do you guys think?
Yes.
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an interactive instruction manual.
Yeah.
I mean, they even made a point of not even calling them like mini games, but like experiences, or I can't remember the exact phrase they used.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you know what it does, guys? It makes me think back to like Iwata or Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were still, around, they kind of had that mindfulness of a player. We
Yeah.
used to laugh about please understand, but they did have the consumer in mind with like price cuts on the 3DS or Nintendo Selects, pack-in games.
Mm.
And this is the sort of thing like, are you reading the room, Nintendo? Do you
Yeah.
realize what a small thing, what goodwill this would cause if you had
Yeah.
this packed in? Especially since you're already being kind of disingenuous dancing around some of these cost confusions.
Mm.
This really could have been an asset, but it's sort of like death by a thousand cuts, right? All these little things start to add up. And
Mm.
then we're talking about the Switch 2, and Mario Kart starts getting buried because, oh, there's this and there's that, and there's this and there's that. And it generates a lot of negative chatter where it
Yeah.
should be all positive.
It should be. This should be like the most exciting thing ever because consoles don't come around every day. We know this. It's been 8 years since the Switch. I am still excited, but it's marred in controversy. And like you said, it's negativity. They say there's no such press as bad press, but I don't know if that's the case here. This is the one where I can excuse. I mean, we've talked about the console price. I think we said that's relatively fair. If not, it's a bit expensive, but it kind of makes sense. Mario Kart, it's bundled, so maybe that's okay, but we're still confused and annoyed about it. And is that the precedent for the rest of the games, or are they all going to be the Donkey Kong price? This is like maybe the line where it's like, why did you make a $10 game not a free pack in? Like, it would have helped people swallow that price of the console because okay, the console's expensive, but I'm getting this cool game, maybe inverted quotes. It's not really a game, but it has game elements. I suppose it's an experience, right? You get this
Mm.
free experience packed in with it. You get something to play out of the box, whether you get Mario Kart or not. Just ignoring the Switch library, obviously we have that. But from a Switch 2 perspective, we have something new and fresh and dedicated to this console to play. And it's there, it's packed in, everyone can play it and enjoy it. And it'd be like Wii Sports all over again kind of thing. Maybe not as popular because Wii Sports was phenomenally popular, but in a similar sense, people will enjoy it and like it and talk about it more positively at least. Do you think there's a chance they'll change their mind on that? Or do you think they're just going to run with it?
I hope not. I hope they don't. And the reason is because the good thing about this being something you have to buy is it's now not something I have to delete or throw away. I have no interest in Welcome Tour, none whatsoever. So the fact that they're not giving it to me just is like they're alleviating a step from my process and getting into this.
Is this
And
the
I think,
U2 album all over again, is it?
yeah, see, yeah, like we discussed with that, and I think I said at the time, if they did put this in, then people would be upset because it wasn't something better. Like, why are
Yeah.
you giving us this stupid thing instead
Mhm.
of now? Obviously, they're not going to give us Mario Kart World, but some kind of game because Wii Sports was great.
Mhm.
It showed off the system. It was fun to play. It moved systems, obviously. Um, so if they were planning on giving us something like a pack-in game, I would want it to be something better. And I don't think this is going to happen. But because of all this confusion and the pricing, wouldn't it be great if Nintendo came out and said, okay, pre-orders are now open. Oh, and by the way, we've decided to throw this in too. And I don't know what game it would be, whether it's one they've already announced or not, but they just give us something to go with it. I
Mhm.
think would take care of a lot of the bad blood that has surfaced post the direct.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Trev,
I
about
wouldn't
that?
be surprised if eventually they did. Time will tell. The launch is going to be successful. It's people like us are going to make sure that it is. And then when that honeymoon period is over, if the sales slow, like we saw initially with the 3DS and certainly kind of through most of the Wii U's life, I could see them throwing it in then because that's what they did with the Wii U. When sales slowed, Nintendo Land wasn't enough. Let's throw in Mario and Luigi U in a combo pack besides.
Mm.
So this seems like a small thing they could throw in. And, maybe come the holiday season, if Mario Kart gets pulled, maybe by then they'll have a new pack in. And
Yeah.
maybe Welcome Tour will be in there with it just for good measure. But
Yeah.
at least initially, I think they're going to stick to their guns.
Yeah. So the question remains, Kirk, you will not, but Trev, would you consider purchasing this for $10 with your Switch 2?
On principle, I would not. I would wait for a sale. I was thinking, I think I said like 5.99 would be my
Mhm.
limit, and
Mm.
I think I got to stick with that because it's just you'd be like, what's a few bucks? But you got to draw the line somewhere because
Yeah.
it's like if you'd pay $10, then why not $12? It's only
Yeah.
$2 more.
Yeah,
Why
this
not
is true.
13? You could just keep going and going. So
Yeah, and I think, the other thing we haven't really mentioned is there's the console, right? And then obviously a game if you do want a game, like I said, I want Mario Kart. Then do you get the camera? Do you get the Pro Controller too? Do you get the memory expansion, the SD card? Like all of these things are going to add up and they can't chuck in a $10 game, so I don't know.
and you better hope you have Switch Online, which is going to be
Yeah. Yes.
what, $50
Yeah,
more if you got a
exactly.
family.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, that's something they could do. Because they offer that for free for like 3 months or something. Move that to a year. Let people who are already paying get like 3 months to 6 months off, where they
Mm.
get it for free during that period. Would be another great thing they could do
Mhm.
to say that they understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised what the welcome tour isn't free for online subscribers, at least. I think that seems to be a thing they do quite often. Like for example, the expansion games. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. If you own the original Switch version, the expansion packs are free if you are an online Plus subscriber, which I think that's cool. I like that.
Mhm.
I mean,
Not the DLC though. Still got to pay for that.
yeah, that's true. Not the DLC. Okay.
I'm sorry, but you see
That's
what I'm
Neg-
saying?
negative Nancy.
It's all these little things that
Mhm.
are adding up that make Nintendo seem like they're kind of tone deaf.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I am like, we've talked about Tears of the Kingdom in the past and I've sort of moved on from that, but I am gonna jump in and play it again when I've got the Switch 2 version for free. Like, I'm gonna jump in and see what it's like. I wanna see the lovely, look and the frame rate improvements and explore a bit. So, I'm
I'll do
looking
the
forward to that.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to do that again because it's been a while since I've touched Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild for that matter. Yeah. Maybe it'll motivate me to actually finish the game.
Wait, you didn't finish it?
No.
Am I the only one that did out of the three of us?
Yes?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't finish it.
Wow, man, I didn't finish it right away. But what was the last Zelda game that came? Echoes of Wisdom. Right before
Mhm.
that came out, we finally finished it.
Yeah. I should go
So
back. I
I
will. I will have an excuse to, so sorry, Kirk.
I'd say I barely even explored any of the underground territories. I found that way too stressful.
Oh, yeah.
Just
I
staying.
oh
was I was
wow,
terrified at the Underworld, so
that was the main thing I did at first because it was that felt totally brand new. Not to get off topic, but
yeah. Yeah,
like the
you loved it.
overworld felt familiar, the underground felt new. So I'm like, I'm gonna 100% this.
Yeah,
I
you would
felt like it was going to be a lot easier once I leveled up and grabbed a whole lot more items. So I didn't do it, and then just like I probably could now. I think I'm equipped and ready to go, but no,
Might
Yeah.
as well wait for Switch 2 now.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes, exactly. Should we talk about pre-orders? Do you have more things to say about the price in terms of games, console, anything else to add? Expansion packs? I don't know. I think Kirby, it's even to add to your point about confusion, Trev, it's not even clear what the expansion packs are doing. Like, I don't think Kirby is free for online plus subscribers, maybe because it has more content. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's a great game, obviously. I mean, and but yeah, what am I going to do with that? I don't know enough about the new
Mm.
content. Like, it's a no brainer for you and people who didn't pick it up. But
Yeah. Although I will say it is the same price as Mario Kart World here for the Switch
mm,
2 version. So it's expensive. Same with the Tears of the Kingdom edition. Oh, sorry, Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom. So if you don't have the Switch version and you want to buy it outright, it's $110 here. At least that's what they're listing it on EB Games. Maybe it's just a generic price they've put there. I don't know if that's official. But I mean, wouldn't you be better off going and buying the Switch version and then paying $10 or playing it for free on your Online Plus account? Right?
I, I I feel like I need a chart in front of
Yeah,
me.
I know, right? It's confusing. It's confusing. There you go. It's confusing. Have we helped our listeners with any of this talk? I don't know, but we've put it out there. We obviously want to know what you think as well, so please do let us know. Let's talk about the pre-orders. So they're not. Are they still not open? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
They're not open in the U.S. or Canada. I did realize that Canada was on hold too, but Nintendo has announced that they are going to open them in the US and Canada on May 8th
Hmm.
through Nintendo.com. There's no word on when retailers are going to have it available. I don't know if you'd be able to pre order, like, say, I speak of Best Buy often. If I could pre order it from them beforehand, if they all open the same day, there's no word. But they're doing something that I like with this in that you have to qualify to be able to get a pre-order in through Nintendo.com. The
Right.
qualifications are you have to have a Nintendo Switch online membership for a minimum of 12 months. You
Hmm.
need to be the one who purchased the Nintendo Switch online membership, meaning that, say, my son Sam has one, but it's through my family account, so he wouldn't be able to do it. It would have
Mm.
to be ordered through me because I set it up and added them on. And you must have opted in to share gameplay data and have at least 50 hours total of gameplay hours in order to get the invitation to pre-order your Switch on May 8th.
Right. Interesting. I mean, that's not hard for you. You've got all that, obviously.
Yes, in fact,
Yeah.
I did have to look. I wasn't sure about third point. I'm like, do I have gameplay data sharing on? I have no idea. And listeners, go to your mynintendo.com account and click on the three dots up by your thing, and there will be a thing. I believe it's under privacy settings, privacy and sharing, maybe. And you'll see if you've got the little blue check marks, then you're good. You are sharing your data
And
with
if
Nintendo.
you Oh, that's good. Good tip. Thank you, Kirk. If you do not have it turned on, but you turn it on, will it share what you've already played? Like if you've been playing Xenoblade for 100 million hours, that will share automatically, or is it from the point you turn it on? Do we know that?
I don't know. I'm assuming the data is stored on the Switch. And so the
Yeah,
moment you
I
turn it
think so.
on, you're able to access it when you turn on your Switch again, and the information will all go at once.
That would make sense. I would
I hope,
assume
I
that.
hope that's the case.
Yeah.
And they're doing this, of course, to to help prevent scalpers. People
Mm,
who have never owned a Nintendo, have no interest in owning Nintendos, still, purchasing them all and then immediately putting them up on eBay and such and reselling them.
yeah.
So, it's good for us. It's good for people who have Switch users who have been playing for a long time and are fans.
Hmm.
Not good for kids who maybe are getting their first Nintendo system and want to give it a shot. We'll have
Hmm.
to wait.
Yeah.
And I don't think just because you meet these three steps, that doesn't mean you're going to get the invitation on day one.
Right. Is it
It's
a
still a bit of a
lottery?
while. Yeah,
Okay.
I
That
think.
was my next question. Did that mean you guaranteed one? But no, not the case. Interesting. They love their lotteries, don't they?
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping I can order mine at Best Buy because, of course, the drawback to this is I got to wait for them to ship it, and there's no guarantee that it's going to get to my house on day one. Whereas if I pre-order
Mm,
from Best Buy, if I get it in time, there's that midnight opening, and I can go there and pick it up immediately and come back
yeah.
and get things set up.
So may the
And
yeah, right.
download Mario Kart
Yeah.
while I'm sleeping.
So are you gonna get Mario Kart then?
Well, yeah, because like you said, I think it's a great game to show off the system and to see it. Plus, everybody in my family plays it. Sam's the one
Mm,
who's really into it, and
mhm.
he said that yeah, I'd like to get that on day one. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, I'm going to get that system with that there, and it's a game that we'll always have, and we'll be able to play it forever.
Yeah, that's it. Trev, when pre-orders open, what will you be getting, do you think?
Well, I did a Nintendo site, like you can put in from your My Nintendo account, like you have interest, right? And
Mhm.
then they get back to you. I don't think the actual it's like a month away for us, right, Kirk? They said like May,
Yeah, May
almost a
8th.
month away.
Mm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
um I do have a credit card that's pretty much empty that I could put on it. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to wait and see. I guess.
Okay.
I'm sort of surprised to say that, but I'm also not because I traditionally don't pick up consoles right away. Even the Switch, I waited a few months, so it might be a case. Maybe I'll wait till like Black Friday or something.
Mm,
But then again, are they going to take Mario Kart away as a pack-in at that point?
mm,
It's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? But um, there's too much confusion still for me. I want more clarity,
mhm.
and I want more games that interest me. Not that I'll be able to afford a lot, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Donkey Kong, for as cool as it looked, doesn't really look like my type of gameplay. So I want to see more of that wheelchair game, something, or what else Nintendo has in store. I might look at like Cyberpunk because that's going to be a full game on a cart. So
Mm, mhm.
yeah, I put my interest in, and we shall see.
Okay,
I
so
don't have fear of missing out, but I do have fear of not being able to contribute enough to pure Nintendo.
yeah, I was gonna say,
So
Kirk, you and I will be doing all the Switch 2 reviews.
yeah, I gotta factor that in mind because
Well, Justin will be getting one, right? I mean, we can count on.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he got a toddler. I don't know how much he's gonna be
Oh yeah,
reviewing.
that's true. Yeah. But you bring up a good point about games too, because, like I said, I will be getting Mario Kart. Um, Aside from that, uh, there aren't really a whole lot that really wowed me that I thought I need to get this game to start. And that kind of throws me back to the Wii U. When that came out, there were no games that I felt like I needed to have. And I even wrote articles for a site I was on at the time, wrestling with which one do I get? Which one do I end up buying? And the one I got, I didn't like and got rid of pretty quickly. Had to move on to another. I'm going to get Bravely Default right away. I mentioned as a digital download because it's one of those key code card things that make no sense to me. But that's why I like the option for the expansion packs for the games that are being redone a bit to take advantage of the graphics. And there are some games that I'm purposely not finishing now, aside from Tears of the Kingdom, because I'm waiting to see how they'll perform and how they'll look on the Switch 2.
Mhm.
So even though I'm not buying a lot of games on day one, there'll be an awful lot to play.
Yeah, and I think, the other thing we didn't mention is, we talked about the expansion packs, but there are other and I think we did mention it last week though, like Pokemon Scarlet Violet, Echoes of Wisdom have free updates, which
Mhm.
is that's nice, I guess, right? I don't know if there are other games in that free update sphere, if you wanna call it that.
I wonder how many companies, aside from Nintendo, are planning to do the same thing, where they'll release
Mm.
updates when it comes out and say, "Hey, we've added this. You can
Yeah,
buy this if you want. More companies have to weigh in and do this. I would think.
yeah, I would think
So I'm
so.
excited to see which ones step up.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. There's a lot, to, I guess, look forward to, or at least unpack in the future. It's such a weird time because we were looking forward to the direct, obviously, and now we've got this almost 2-month window to the release, but we've got this month until pre-orders open. There's all these questions around the price. It's like you've been saying, Trevor. It's just chaotic, confusing time for some fans. So, which is a shame. We want to talk about the games, and I am still very excited, of course. But maybe I'm not. Well, am I? Am I a typical fan? I don't know because I've been a Nintendo fan my whole life, pretty much. Right? Like I grew up with Nintendo. But Kirk, you're a later adopter in terms of you came in the GameCube era. I was talking to some people at work yesterday who are more of a casual fan base, and they were pretty anti the Switch 2 because of the price. One of them was like a DS kind of baby, like as in grew up with a DS, and if you think about it from that perspective, and does have a Switch in their household, I think, but maybe doesn't own one personally. So probably is the more sort of person who would play another person's Switch, for example. And another person was worried about the battery life, which is something we have not even mentioned, and I had not even thought about or
Oh
read
yeah.
about. But this person said the battery life is apparently not very good. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that at all.
How, yeah, I don't know who would have tested it to find that out. I'm always
Mm,
assuming with battery life that they're taking the same route Apple does, where every time something gets bigger, they put a bigger battery in, and it actually gets better as we move along. So
yeah.
I'm not. I won't be worried about that until I get concrete evidence that I should be
Mm.
worried.
I was surprised to hear that from this person because I haven't nothing has come up in my newsfeed about the battery. It's all price related. So I'm not sure where that came from, but I haven't also specifically searched for it. So that would be another interesting topic. Um, we have a little bit of time left. Do we want to continue this conversation, or do you want to do a quick talk about games we're playing? How do you guys feel?
I'll just quickly to your point, Gemma, about what type of Nintendo fan are you? I
Hmm.
think of like you and Kirk and myself and Justin. We're like the Wii U Nintendo fans.
Hmm.
The Wii U targeted the Nintendo enthusiast, and it sold 13 million consoles as a result.
Hmm.
The Switch and the Wii and the DS, they had that blue ocean strategy. They targeted not just the Nintendo fans, but mom and dad and grandma and the casual player, and they had massive sales of 100 million plus.
Hmm.
Is the Switch 2 going to be a Wii U 2 where we're all rocking Mario Kart for the next few years and wondering why more people aren't jumping on? Or
Hmm.
are they going to correct course and be like, no, we want this to find a wide audience? And here's an Animal Crossing, and here's a Wii Sports type game or whatever, Wii Fit type game, something to bring in a wider audience, or here's some games that are more budget prices,
Yeah.
29.99, $39.99. So I think we're going to be set no matter what happens. I'm
Mhm.
more concerned about all those others because they're what's going to determine ultimately if the system has legs.
Yeah. Yep, excellent point, honestly. Very good point. And it would have been nice, I think. The direct was good. It was really good. It was great. It put a lot in, but it might have been good to tease the future. But that's maybe that was too much. That's why I said, did we want to see what is happening with Zelda or like Animal Crossing, Mario? We did not see Mario, but maybe that's better to save it, and then later on they can wow us with something. They got to save some surprises, right? And we know there's got to be a Mario 3D coming at some point.
Oh
They're
yeah.
not, yeah, they're not going to not do one, and there'll be a Zelda in the future, of course. Maybe it'll tie in with the movie or something. Who knows? Um,
Mm.
yeah, Animal
They didn't
Crossing.
want to create another Metroid 4 scenario.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
That's a
promised
good
a
point.
game,
Yeah.
and then
That is
8
a
years
very good
later, it
point.
hasn't arrived.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very good point, honestly. Yeah, it is an interesting time. I did a little poll on YouTube just to ask if people were happy with the direct, and it seems like I think it was 80 or 85% said yes, which is good. I'll do another one about price as well and see how we fare with that one. I meant to do that during the week, but didn't get around to it. But yes, we'll do a poll about the price, and maybe which games people are interested in getting on day one. I am excited, and the more I think about it, the more excited I am in terms of I just want to get Mario Kart now. I just want to get the camera. I just want to try out this new system. Like, I am definitely excited, price aside. It's kind of like it's a one-off spend to, like we've been saying, and then for the rest of the console's life, we can enjoy, you know, the console itself and all the things that come with it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
As
I
long as you
just
don't need a memory card or a GameCube
yeah.
controller or
Uh, yeah, well, Justin will be disappointed. I think they did announce during the week, or someone, I don't know where it came from. The GameCube controllers are only for GameCube games, not other games. Which I
uh,
don't know. I'm not that surprised, but I think Justin was hoping they would be.
You can get, though, for the current Switch, a GameCube style controller now because we
Mm-hmm.
have one.
yeah, I
Right.
have
I
one
don't know
too.
if you, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, you'll be fine.
It'll
Yeah.
I'll
be
tell
a
you where
little
I am.
thing.
Sorry.
Little thing could have gave some goodwill. The
Yeah.
GameCube controller works with them all, but
Yeah.
again, death by a thousand cuts.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, Kirk, what were you going to say?
Say where I am with the anticipation and excitement right now is kind of like the equivalent when you're going on vacation and you go to the airport and you don't know if your flight is going to be canceled or delayed or if you're going to
Mm,
get bumped off. You know you're going on vacation, but until you're on the seat
yeah.
and you're taking off and you've lifted, you can't just relax and start to look forward to things because there are still things that can go wrong. And that's
Yeah.
where I am with the Switch 2 at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel really bad for you guys that you can't pre-order because that made a huge difference to me. I'm like, I've got my pre-order in. I know what I'm getting day one. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to play it. I just hope that gets sorted soon. If the other retailers like Best Buy can open the pre-orders. What happens if you get invited? You don't have to accept the Nintendo invitation, right? Like if Best
No,
Buy, yeah, okay, you could
no.
decline. Yeah.
Although I was wondering, here's the promise I'm going to make to our listeners. If I
Hmm.
do end up ordering, like let's say Nintendo, I can order through them first. I'm going to do it because I want to make sure I get one as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
But then I also find then Best Buy opens and I get in there. Now I've got two systems rather than cancel one. I think I'll take them both and then put one up on eBay at the exact price that I paid for it.
Oh, yeah.
No
Okay.
jacked up price at all. The first person who finds it, you're going to get a system for exactly what you would have paid for it any other way. So that's my
Nice.
promise if that happens.
Oh, that's nice.
Take that,
I like
scalpers.
teasing them.
Take that. We'll bring the market
Everyone else
down.
on eBay is going to be furious because I'm making forcing them to lower their. Well, they're going to sell theirs regardless. I'm not going to affect anybody, but
Probably.
someone's going to get a good Switch too.
Yeah. Depends how hard it is to get, I suppose. Yeah.
I just celebrated my wedding anniversary. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. You wouldn't be
Jen
tempted.
likes Switch.
Yeah.
My wedding anniversary is 4 days after the Switch 2 comes out. So
Mm. It's a
Oh,
good way to celebrate.
yeah.
Yeah. We sort of have run out of time, I think, for games we're playing. Do we want to tease that for next week? I do, but I am interested in the Yoshi's Woolly World thing, Trev. Maybe it's worth mentioning that because that does link into Switch 2. Do you
oh
want to talk?
yeah, okay. So I do have review games, but I've been playing Yoshi's Woolly World, and it's not just random because it is an old game.
Mm.
But and I didn't pick up on this during the direct, but I forget who originally picked up on it. The article I linked was from Nintendo Life. They probably have the source. But when they were showing compatible Switch games for the Switch 2, game type 2 they called it, which what does that mean? I don't know. It's more confusion, right? But
Yeah.
they showed, thumbnails for Kirby, for Mario Wonder, Pokemon Scarlet, Mario Odyssey, Clubhouse Games, Pikmin, etc. And at the top, there's like a half thumbnail with art from Yoshi's Woolly World.
Mm.
So, what does that mean? Is that game coming to the Switch? Was it a mistake? Because Crafted World, I think, was featured in the directs in other regions.
Mhm.
So people are like, maybe it was a mistake, but that's a pretty big mistake to make. Like, you have one job, you're making this chart, and you're
Yeah.
grabbing the wrong art. So, does that
Yeah.
mean Woolly World's coming to the Switch too? Um,
Maybe.
I hope so. I wouldn't get it because I already have 2 copies, right? But the game deserves to find an audience because between the Wii U and 3DS, it probably only got a couple million, and it's a great game. And replaying it, I've been replaying it on 3DS just because it's easier to play in bed and whatnot. But it did allow me to take advantage of some new amiibo I got.
Yeah,
And
right.
that's what
Which
I wanted to mention
okay, yeah.
because it's been a while uh, since I mentioned any new amiibo.
Mhm.
But in Woolly World, each amiibo gives you a Yoshi like skin for that
Mhm.
character. So it's definitely worth scanning in as many as you can. So I picked up nothing super exciting. They were all old ones, but I got them at a good price. I got Pikachu,
Mhm.
which I'm hoping might get some use in the upcoming Pokemon game.
Yeah.
I got Waddle Dee from Kirby.
Mhm.
So now I have 3 of the 4 from Planet Robobot. And I got Pac Man, which is like the
Ah,
oldest amiibo. I think it was in the first wave.
right.
But I
Yeah.
finally got them. And I got Yoshi's as all those skins. I added them up, Gemma. I have 32 amiibo in my
Wow.
collection.
That's growing nicely. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I'm far away from you, but for me, it's decent.
I wonder
Yeah.
if you'll be able to use Pac-Man in that Shadow Labyrinth game.
Ooh,
Wow, maybe.
that would be a selling point.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
I
don't
would
like the creepy look, if you want something more gentle, put Pac Man in there. And
Yeah.
Go back to the old audio effects.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, from the Atari 2600 for the Pac-Man for that.
Yeah.
Pank, 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 pank.
oh, man.
When does that one come out? Was there a release date? It was just
There
quarter
was a
or
date, I
something.
think.
Summer.
Yes,
Yeah.
sometime in the summer.
That does look cool. I like that.
How many amiibo do you have, Gemma? Do you know?
Oh, I knew you'd ask me that, and I haven't counted them recently. I think I've got maybe 80 or so?
Wow,
Yeah, something like
man.
that. And I wanna get the new ones as well, which is another cost factor, but I don't wanna
Mm.
miss out. So, um,
The new
yeah.
Zelda ones look pretty cool.
Yeah, they do. They really do. July 18th is Shadow Labyrinth, so that will be cool. And I mean, the other thing we could mention, I guess, about the pricing thing, is who was it? Doug? I don't know if it was Doug Bowser or somebody else. I think it was Doug Bowser talking about the affordability of the Switch 2, and that if you can't afford it, you can buy a Switch 1. That's not exactly what he said, but I think what he was, it sort of makes sense, but I think it's been blown out of proportion, and it's another one
Mm.
of those confusing things. Of course, the Switch 1 is still being supported. We know that. There was a direct. There's lots of games coming out. There's heaps to look forward to on the Switch as well. If you can't afford a Switch 2, there is a Switch. There is a cheaper version. There is a Switch still available with lots of great content. Already there's an 8-year-old library of games, plus new games coming. But the way they said it, it did sound kind of like, well, yeah.
Let them eat cake.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's another little one of those cuts, I guess, Trev, isn't it? It's just
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it was a nothing burger. I didn't think anything of it, but
yeah, no,
I
exactly.
just say Doug Bowser maybe isn't the in terms of public speaking, maybe he doesn't have
Mm.
the style like that Reggie had.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is delivery, and I think it was. I had no objection to what he said,
Yeah. No.
but yeah, you just at this point they really need to be aware of their messaging and how they're
Mhm.
delivering information. Don't
Yeah.
leave
I think
any room for confusion.
and
And
they
let's be
need
honest.
somebody.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Trent. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, gamers and websites aren't doing any favors because you're taking something small and running with it.
Mm.
And it's
Mhm.
kind of clickbaity, like, "Oh, Doug
Yeah.
Bowser says,"
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And what was your point, Kirk?
Especially Nintendo of America doesn't have anybody right now who can connect to gamers.
Mm.
Bowser comes across as a businessman. They got rid of like Martinet. Kit and Krista are gone. All these people who
Mm.
represented the company visually that you could identify with because they seemed like they really loved the characters and loved the games. Nintendo of America has nobody like that I know of, and now they're coming across as a corporation instead of a gaming
mm,
community
Mm.
like they did originally. We still get that from Japan. When those guys are up there talking, you can just see the joy
Yeah.
for what they're doing, uh, but not in the U.S.
Yeah. That's a really good
Specifically.
point.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There was a lot yeah, it was a lot it was a very different scene, a very different style when those people you mentioned were on deck with Nintendo.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting point. Mm. Thank you.
I really hope they nail it. I really do because and I know we're trying to wrap up, but there's no second pillar to fall back on anymore.
Yeah.
When
There's
Wii
no
U
Dude,
was floundering, they poured into the 3DS, and that was a success.
Mhm.
But there's no 3DS anymore. I can't go and pick up a game for $39.99 and have a blast with it. So they're really
Yeah.
all in on Switch 2, and that's why they got to make sure the narrative is honest and straightforward, and it just don't come off as stingy. Even if you're not being stingy, don't leave that impression
Yeah.
that you are. And they could even fix that now, right? They
Mm.
got rid of gold coins. Replace that with
Mm.
something even better. You have 100 games on the Switch that have sold over 1 million copies. Bring back Nintendo Select. Do something so it doesn't seem like you're in this insular bubble where you're nickel and diming us.
That's a really good point. If Switch 2 games are gonna be more expensive and the Switch 1 is still being supported, yeah, why not discount all of those 100 games that are bestsellers? People will still buy them if they haven't picked up one of the Mario games or Zelda games previously. Yeah, make those retail prices lower to compensate for
or,
that. Hmm.
or pack in an Alarmo.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. There's so much things they could do. Yeah, it's a tricky time. I do hope they turn this around, because the internet is a fickle place, an unforgiving place. It's like we know this. We don't even need to be on Twitter to know this. It's yeah, people have opinions, so they're not shy of talking about it. I wonder what's happening. I'd love to know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in Nintendo's kind of PR office or wherever their marketing office, whatever they're doing. Like they know what the sentiment is. They would get that. They would have, the sentiment is negative. What are we going to do to turn this around? Yeah.
I have a cynical thought on that,
Okay.
and that is that. And again, I know we're wrapping up. Um, they don't care. They're going to people can complain all they want, but if when they do get it out and people are buying it and it's selling well,
Mm,
people on the internet can complain all they want. It doesn't matter at all until they're not buying.
true.
So, if the system sells well, then they'll be like, see, they can, we were good. We were good the whole time. We told you.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to come down to sales, and we're going to see if it moves at this price, it could be a bad thing, and that they're like, all right, people want to pay this. This is going to be the price going forward.
Mm,
But again, that's the corporate world.
yeah, that's it.
And that's why that gap between the launch window and the holiday season is vital. Because,
Yeah,
in June, Switch 2 is going to be the best selling console by a
Mhm,
huge margin.
mhm.
and maybe even into July. But what happens August, September, October, you get the holiday season approaching. If they take a dive and the sales start falling off a cliff, that's when Nintendo needs to be like, all right, we need to have a backup plan because this holiday season has to be a success.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. Very interesting. Very good discussion. Thank you, guys. Any final thoughts before we do close off for the week? Next
I
week
have
we'll
no
have.
doubt that the Switch, I never did, but I have even listed out now that the original Switch is going to be the best selling console of all time,
Mm.
especially with Doug Bowser telling us to play
Yeah,
the Switch.
to play the Switch. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I don't even know what to say to that. But yeah, no, I agree. I think well, it's already very close. It's going to go over.
Mm.
Next week we've got, I guess, the Switch. Sorry, the Mario Kart World Direct. It's this week. It's the 17th. It's Thursday the 17th. So we'll talk about that on next week's show. So stay tuned for all of the details on that one. I think this has been a really good discussion. I think we needed to get all that out because there's no way we could have packed that into last week's show. Can you imagine?
Oh,
Jeez.
yeah.
So we've got it all out in the air now. We've vented our thoughts. We want to know what you think, listeners. So please do let us know. Hopefully things settle down in the US when it comes to these pre-orders and price debates, tariffs, etc. I hope everyone's okay. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you want to find out more about what we do, you can follow us on Blue Sky and keep up to date with us and our news and reviews there. That's linked to our website, which is purenintendo.com, of course. So find us over there and read all our awesome reviews. We are also on Patreon if you'd like to support us. Patreon.com/PureNintendo is where you can head to get yourself a copy of our physical magazine. We're working on our next issue now, so stay tuned for more information about that one. But until next week, thank you and game on, everybody. Bye.
So long.